Here we go. We're in the studio with Southern Oregon University head football coach Berk Brown. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome, Coach. How are you this morning?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm not used to hearing that head football coach at SOU just yet, man. That's something I've worked for towards my whole life, and hearing it, man, is just I'm not used to it yet. So that's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm pumped.
Right?
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
super excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm just not used to hearing it yet, I guess. So
Yeah.
it's on my signature and my email. But I'm just, yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about being in this position, man. I've dreamt about it for the last 7 years, and being here now, it's surreal. It's unbelievable, man. I'm super excited to be back. I'm super excited to be a part of this great university, this great athletic program, and department. So yeah, just hitting the ground running here.
Yeah, I can't tell you how happy I am that Matt Sayer and the whole department is bringing in Raiders.
Yeah, I think if you look back at Matt's, hiring, like, he's big on that, right? He hired Matt as the basketball coach, who's a Raider, hired me as the football coach, who's a Raider. I mean, he's big into that. And it's funny, SOU has this way of just pulling people back in, into coming back to wherever they came from, whether they graduated here, coached here prior, played here prior. Like, we all end up coming back here. And as you well know, TJ, like, this place is cool, man. And it's a great place to live, great place to go to school. We can win games here in any sport. I mean, I think it's just weird how it works that way.
Yeah, there's definitely something magical about it, and I've tried to escape the orbit a couple times. It just pulls the gravity, pulls me right back in.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I think it's the people.
Yeah.
Like, and it starts with Matt and Bobby and on down. They're just good people. They're fun to work for. They're fun to work with. They're going to go to bat for you. And I think our new president's got it together, and he's got this university going in the right direction. So I'm excited to be a part of it, man.
Yeah, he seems great from what I can tell. So now that you're here and you're actually up and running, I know at the beginning it was kind of like you were named head coach, but you weren't started yet, so you had to figure everything out. What's the first order of business?
Number one, so really there's 3 things I'm trying to take care of here in the next month. Number one is connecting with our roster. And I'm doing that just by kind of sitting back right now. Our head strength coach, Coach Desmond, is doing an unbelievable job with the guys. And so I'll just drop in there and see how they're working and see how things are going. Not looking to go in and make big changes right away and start stomping around and saying, we're going to do it this way. I'm not about that. And I just go around and try to connect with the guys. We got about 75 on the roster right now. So it's a big job. Number 2, the second thing we want to accomplish is hire staff. Made a big hire, hiring Greg Stewart as our offensive coordinator. He's going to bring in just a ton of juice, a ton of enthusiasm, a ton of energy. And it's his first opportunity to coordinate. So he's just on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah.
And he flew in yesterday, which is Tuesday. And as soon as he walked into the weight room, guys just could feel his energy, man. They were excited. And now I got to hire the rest of the staff. I've brought in Josh Winfield, who was here with us in the 13 and 14 seasons, helped us win a national championship. He was my linebackers coach when I was the defensive coordinator here. And you want to talk about another guy with just a bunch of juice? Like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, that's what I think our program needs is coaches with energy and who are going to care about our guys. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm looking for when I'm hiring the staff. And we got a couple more spots to fill. We're going to keep old Coach Kern around.
Yeah.
He's going to coach the defensive line. He's a Raider himself. And man, he held it down for the couple, that month period where I got hired and I was finishing at the high school. He held it down in the weight room and did some things, man. He's proven a lot to me as a young coach. And now we're going to go hire the rest of the staff, man. And that's what I've been focusing on. Doing Zoom interviews and trying to find a quarterbacks coach and a defensive coordinator and a wide receivers coach. So that's the second thing we got to take care of. So I got to connect with our guys. I got to hire staff, and we got to recruit dudes. We got to find the 75 guys that are on the roster right now, some teammates, so we can go get after this thing. So my days are crazy, to say the least. Yeah, especially as I was finishing up at the high school there. Like, I was up at 6 and not in bed till 11, working the whole time. Now that I've got my boots on the ground, I'm starting to settle in a little bit to what it's going to be like as a head football coach here.
Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time to come sit down with us because it's an hour and a half or 2 out of your day, and, I know it's a lot to do, so I was really excited when you said you were gonna come in and talk to
Listen,
us.
like, connecting with the campus and connecting with the rest of the athletic program is a part of my job and something I look forward to doing. So you ain't got to thank me. This is awesome. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, nice. So you said you're beating the bushes to find the right guys to fill these spots. How do you go about that process of finding guys? Do you use referrals or what do you do?
All the above, really. As soon as we hired Coach Stu, I knew, the specific position we were looking for then. And so we're going to go look for, first of all, a quarterback's coach. And we need someone who's going to connect well, not only with me, but with Coach Stu. Stu's going to work kind of the front end side of things. He'll be heavily involved with the offensive line. And so we need a quarterbacks coach who's going to kind of take care of the perimeter things, a passing game coordinator. And so between Coach Stu and I, and using the connections that we have, we've got about 4 or 5 guys we're getting on Zoom interviews
Mm,
for not only the quarterback position, but the wide receiver position as well. So that's, I mean, after I get done here today, and right before actually I came over here, we're on Zoom interviews all day
mm,
long, trying to find that right fit. For the defensive coordinator position, we're actually going to open that thing up. I made a couple offers, and the opportunity didn't work out for those guys I offered the job to. So we're going to open this thing up, and hopefully we get a ton of applicants that I can dig through and find the right fit. And the biggest thing, with hiring coaches is X's and O's are super important. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, we need to be good and cutting edge with what we do in between the white lines. But when I'm looking for coaches, I want people, right? I want good people who are going to connect with people, who want to build relationships with guys, who want to be a part of our players' lives, not just for the next 4 years, but the next 40 years.
yeah.
That's priority number one. Like, they've got to be a people person, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm looking for. I think there's multiple ways to skin a cat on the offense and defensive side of the ball. It's how can we get our guys to buy into what we're doing is the most important thing. And so when I'm looking to hire these dudes, like, can you connect with our kids? Can you connect with our student athletes? Can you connect with recruits? Can you connect with the staff? Not only the football staff, but the athletic staff. Like, it takes us all to make the one out there, and
Mm.
and and that's important for me. So that's where we're at right now.
I love the "we" hashtag and
Yeah.
motto, and that goes a long way. I was talking to Tay about how that was our motto in high school,
Mm.
and I didn't appreciate it until I was much older, how important that was for us. The group of guys that went through when I went through, it really connected us, and we stayed together for a long time throughout our lives, and a lot of it was as silly as it seemed to us at the time, because we're high school kids and the "we," and, it's very important
I'm a
having that
corny
foundation.
guy.
Yeah, me
Like,
too.
I'm super corny. I'm all about it. Like, I actually learned it also. Our motto for my high school football team was "we," and that's where I learned it. And, and it's not just like, listen, like, having a connection with your teammates and your coaches is important, but make no mistake about it, like, it goes well beyond what we do in between the white lines. Like, our administrators have to be bought into our philosophy. Our professors have to be bought into our kids, to make sure they're helping them, pass their classes and get good grades. I think Dr. Bailey is all in on athletics, which is part of the reason why I took the job. Like, it in our community, like, we have to get our community to buy in, not just to our football program, but to our athletic programs. And the big thing that I'm trying to get across that, the guy I worked for, Craig Howard, brought is that this is not just Ashland's team. This is the Rogue Valley's team. Like, we got to get
Mhm.
people from the basin bought in, from Grants Pass, from Medford, over to the coast, down to Reading, and everywhere in between, bought into what we're trying to do here at SOU. And so when I say we, it's not, is it about our guys connecting and our coaches connecting 100%? But I think it goes well beyond that. We need the community support. We need our university support. And so when I say we, yes, it's about the football team, but it's also about our the people who support us.
Mhm.
Well, and the thing about some of those sayings, like, I feel like personally some of the cliche, corny things you might hear, like, yeah, they might be that, but they're also so true. You know what I
Yeah, I
mean? Like,
mean,
if you hear it so many times, it's probably there's got something to it. You
no
know what I
doubt
mean?
about it. Like, it's you know, student athletes, think those type of, silly sayings are corny, and they are.
Yeah.
But like you said, like, There's a reason people are saying them because it's true. And I think the awesome part about what I'm jumping into is that our football team is looking for a culture to build on. Like they want something to sink their teeth into and drive it home. And listen, I haven't even sat in front of the guys and kind of explained to them what my expectations are. Like I said a little bit earlier, this is more about me spending this, month and a half just kind of soaking it all in and not coming in and trying to, big dog this situation. Like these kids have been here longer than I have over the last 3, 4, 5 years. Like, let me learn about them a little bit and soak it all in before I set the tone for where the football program's going. So, um, they're itching for it right now, man. I can just tell they want me to start, coming in and setting the standard and all this. But I think it's important for me to kind of soak it all up and be sure I'm going to take it in the right direction.
We've started to meet a few of the guys, and just through the athletic department and going to different events and watching some of the games in the fall and having a few guys in here. And it feels like there's a good foundation. There's some winners in there. There's kids that are, like you said, ready to be successful and able to be successful, and feels like we're real close.
Oh, we're super close. I think no, I go back and during the interview process, Matt and Bobby shared all the tape from the last year. So I went and I soaked it all up, man. I watched every game 2, if not 3 times. And there's not a game that we played last year that we weren't in. And somewhere along the line, and I'm not pointing fingers. I don't know what happened. I'm not worried. I am worried about it, but I can't control what happened. Like somewhere along the way, like our football program lost the belief that they could win the tight game. Um, and I picked that up real quick. Their game at College of Idaho, and they had that thing won, and just some last minute crazy stuff happened, and they lost the belief that when it's a tight ball game late in the fourth quarter that they were going to come out on top. Like that takes something happened along the way for them to lose that. So the first thing I'm going to try to instill and let them know is like, this is not a rebuild, fellas. Like you guys were in every game. Like it's a belief more than it is a rebuild. Like we don't need to bring in a bunch of different dudes to turn this thing around. Like I'm not going to go into the portal and bring in 15 guys from the portal that are quote unquote my guys. That's not what we're about. Like you are my guys. Like
Mm-hmm.
you decided to come here the same reason I decided to come here. Let's start putting things together as we, and let's figure out what we got to change so when it is tight in the fourth quarter that the scoreboard reads what we want it to read, after the 60 minutes of football.
That's inspiring. Yeah, it's going to resonate well. I'm sure it already is. But
Well,
yeah.
when I was in the interview process, like with the player panel, that was my first thing I said is like, the word rebuild is not a part of your vocabulary, fellas. Like, we can win here. Like, am I going to go recruit and find you some teammates that are going to push you? You betcha. But I'm not going to flip flop the whole thing and bring in a bunch of guys. And no, man, you guys were in every game you played. Let's figure out what we need to do so that the outcome is a little bit different. And whether that's, a culture thing, whether that's how we practice, those things are all going to change. And hopefully it results in different outcomes on Saturday afternoons.
So speaking of recruiting, I mean, obviously it's sort of the backbone of your program,
No
at
doubt.
the college level, so to speak, and it brings excitement from people to see new guys coming in who are going to be able to contribute for how many years they're here.
Mm-hmm.
What's sort of your recruiting philosophy? I know we asked you about what you're looking for in coaches, but what about future Raiders? What goes into that for you?
Yeah, so first of all, they've got to fit a couple of different categories, right? Number one, can they fit our university socially and emotionally? Like, can they imagine themselves here without football, right? That's a big important thing for me because football is going to keep them busy, but what are they going to do with the other 20 hours of their day? And can they imagine themselves living here and succeeding here without football? So they got to fit our school socially, emotionally, and academically. Like, are we going to offer the programs that they want to have to move on for the rest of their lives? Regionally, we're going to recruit up and down the I-5 corridor from Southwest Washington all the way down to Sacramento, then over to the East Bay, over to Reno. We'll get into Seattle a little bit. Las Vegas is going to be a big push for us. I think for a metropolitan area, Las Vegas is under recruited, and it's a tank of gas is what a flight costs to get from Las Vegas to Medford. Why wouldn't we? And one of the reasons I brought in Coach Winfield was his connections to Las Vegas. He's a Las Vegas guy. And then, athletically, we're going to go find the best guys out there. Like, it's hard to recruit to the small college level and say, well, we're going to run this offense and we're going to recruit to this offense. That's not the case with us. We're going to go find the best guys that we can get and fit our schemes around those athletes. I tell our guys that you got to become us as a culture, and philosophically, we will become you athletically and schematically. So we're going to go find the best dudes that fit our school academically, socially, emotionally, financially, right? That's a big part of going to a small college, as you guys know. Like, we're not giving out full boats, and there's not NIL deals. And so it's got to fit financially too. And then athletically, we're going to work around people, and we're just going to go find the best cats that we can get our hands on.
Sounds great. How many more spots do you have for this next season?
Well, I think if Matt Sayre had his way, we'd have a roster size of 115. I don't know if that's going to happen this first year with 75 on the roster. That's a huge recruiting class. I mean, that's 40 guys, right?
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if we can go sink our teeth in on 30 guys, I think that would be a good goal. And we're working on it. We got our first 3 signees in our first recruiting weekend, which I was stoked about. Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
We're pretty excited. AJ Jackson, linebacker out of Las Vegas, who's going to be immediate impact guy for us, we think. Luke Martindale, an offensive tackle out of the Reno area. And then we got Jonathan Rose, a defensive tackle out of little Siuslaw out there on the coast. Yeah. So, man, those guys, we're ready to go. And to get 3 huge commits like that on our first weekend, we're pretty stoked. I mean, we don't even have a full staff recruiting right now, and we're already starting to get commits. So we'll look to add, 25, 30 more guys to those 3 and keep building this thing.
Yeah, so Luke, I don't know if you knew this, Luke Martindale, he's the cousin of
Des. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Tez's cousin, yeah.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I met him at Northwest the other night. I didn't meet him, but I saw him. Tez's mom or someone was like, "This is his cousin coming here." Yeah.
So like
big old dude.
One of the first weekends he came out here, and I went out to dinner with his family and Tez, so I kind of got to know him a little bit.
He's a great kid, man. Like a 3.9 GPA student, like just all around awesome person. Like, as soon as I got the job, he DM'd me on Twitter and wanted to get up for a visit and learn more about me. And the previous staff was recruiting him, and they were right on with him. Boy, he's a good one. I'm excited to have him on board. And Coach Stu was recruiting him at College of Idaho.
Oh, really?
So it all kind of worked out, right?
Yeah.
As soon as he heard the news that Stu was going to be with us, he's like, "Coach, I'm in. Let's go."
Locked in.
Yeah, let's go.
Yep. And he's Carson City kid? Or is he from?
He's a Reno kid,
Reno.
McQueen.
Yeah.
Yep, he's a McQueen.
But I mean, it's the same area.
Yeah.
Like
Northern Nevada.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same area. But I guess what I would follow up with that and just ask, what are the guidelines as far as classes go? I mean, I know obviously at the Division I level, it's I'm sure a little different, and you can't have 115 guys on your roster, I don't think. Like, what does that look like as far as classes and how that goes for you, like each year? Like, can you bring in as many kids as you want?
Yeah, I mean, we could bring in 60 guys if we really wanted to. I mean, if Matt wanted us to drive male enrollment, like, I would go recruit every guy I could. But I don't think that's reasonable. Like, that's hard to manage. And retention is a huge part of the game at the small college level. And I think, if we'll have 10 to 12 coaches when it's all said and done, whether they're part-time coaches, restricted earnings guys, or guys who are on campus here full-time. I think having a roster size between 100 and 115 is manageable. 10 kids per 1 coach. I think that's doable. So that's our goal. Whether we're going to get to that 115 this year, man, that would be a lot. That would be a lot. That's a lot to manage, especially for me as a first-year college head coach. Like, I want to probably keep the numbers down, but you also got to think about it from a practice standpoint wise. Like, you need solid scout teams and you need that full roster so that, you're getting competition every day and those sort of things. So I think between 100 and 115 is a good goal this year. We'll probably be towards the 100 side.
What's the roster size been the last few years?
That's a great question. I think they were around 100 last year. And as soon as we get a little more cemented into our positions as coordinators and me, we'll shoot for 115. Like that's super manageable. As long as you're recruiting the right kids. Like it starts in recruiting, right?
Mhm.
If you're having to deal with kids outside of the football field and they're being knuckleheads, that makes your life a little bit harder, as you guys know. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, I think 100 and 115 is a great goal for us.
So there's no limit to how many you can have.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
I
Didn't
don't
know
want any more than 100.
No, I'm
Right.
not saying you should.
Yeah.
I was oblivious. I didn't know that you could.
Well, there's some Division III rosters out there that will hold 150 guys.
Jeez.
It's driving male enrollment, right? That's what it's
Right.
doing.
Yeah.
So and admissions at some of these schools are telling these programs like we need dudes on our campus,
especially at those D3s. I was at Milliken and we were so far in the red that they were trying to bring any department in, like whatever department it is, we'll incentivize you to bring people to our school.
Accepted. Exactly. You got a water tower? Oh man.
Koi's ready. So you were going back. I just wanted to go back a little bit. You were talking about how you can't necessarily recruit specifically for a certain style of play, but are there certain position groups that you feel like are the most important for building a team? Like, do you have a philosophy on where you want to be the strongest?
The trigger man, right? You got to have a trigger man, as it was shown when Stu and I were here last. Like having that quarterback is super, super important. And so we will search high and low for that right guy to be pulling the trigger every play. And then you got to have a group that's going to keep him upright. And so that offensive line group is super, super important. So we'll invest a lot into an offensive line. And then beyond that, it's not that other positions don't matter. It's just they could be more fluid, whether you run a four-man front on defense or a three-man front. Well, that's going to depend on who's on your roster and how successful you were over the last 3 years recruiting. So other positions are fluid, tight ends. Like, hey, we have 4 great tight ends on our roster. Well, 2 of them should be on the field at a time. But the constant is always the 5 dudes up front protecting the one guy behind him.
Yeah.
So we got to be sure. And guys are going to think I'm crazy because I'm a defensive minded guy, but make no mistake about it. I know what's important. And those guys throwing the football and those guys protecting the guy with a football in his hands are probably of the utmost importance.
Yeah. Do you have a question? I lost my train. What caught me off guard is, can you slide a little bit that way just so we can see a little more of your face in the camera?
I don't know why people would want to see my face.
Oh, we want to see your face.
Star of the
handsome
show,
man
Star
like
of the
you.
show.
What I was going to say, I distracted myself. Did you ever consider calling the plays defensively?
I have. I want to be a culture driver is what I want to be. I want to be the guy on top, the tip of the spear, so to speak, that I can hold not only players accountable, but coaches accountable to the standard that I see fit for a championship level football program. And if I'm just focusing on one side of the ball, I think I'm doing a disservice to the other side. So I'm searching high and low for a guy defensively who is going to fit the mold that I'm looking for. And I'm not going to sit there and micromanage the dude. Like I'm going to give him reins to run the football, the defensive side of the ball as I see fit. So no, I have not even considered it. Like I know what goes into, well, I don't know. I have an idea of what goes into being a college football coach, head football coach, and to spend the hours that are necessarily to properly game plan and install a defense. I just don't feel like I have that time. I'm really not that smart, to be honest with you. I can't do it all, man. Like I want to drive the culture of this football team. I think that's what our team needs the most right now. Yeah. And then let my assistants do the X's and O's. Now I'll get in where I'll fit in as far as positionally, like, whether I'm coaching the slots on the offensive side of the ball, because that's what our staff needs, coaching the corners or the DTs. Like I'm a coach a position, but I'm just not going to coordinate it. Now, I shouldn't say coordinate. Like I'm going to be heavily involved in special teams. Like I'm a kicking game nerd. Like I love it. And it's a third of the game that often goes underappreciated. We are going to press in the kicking game. Like we're going to have some fakes dialed up. We're going to have some squibs and onside. Like people are going to be on there. We're going to be on our toes in the kicking game for sure.
That sounds fun. Well, that just makes other teams prepare more for that, right? They
Well,
got to spend time preparing for it.
that's the whole thing is like if we're lining up in an unbalanced set and punt, like they're spending more time throughout their week getting ready for their punt return rather than getting ready for our offense or our defense. So yeah, we're gonna be in swinging gates. We're gonna give people hell in special teams.
Regardless of how many guys you bring in this year, there's still going to be a lot of guys out there. As the head coach, how do you have relationships with everyone? How do you go about that?
It takes time, man. It takes a lot of time, and that's why I don't want to coordinate. Is because I do want to have good relationships with everyone on our football team and feel like that they can always walk into my office and have a conversation. And if I'm doing that, like, how am I going to coordinate on the side of the ball? It's unrealistic to me. Now, if I have to, I will 100%. I feel like I'm well prepared enough, and I know the defensive structure that I like and that I can teach. But if I'm going to be um, a mentor to 105 dudes, like that takes time. Like it's me reaching out to guys throughout practice, me touching base with guys who might be struggling in the classroom, and just having that open door policy of like, dude, if you have an issue and you need to chat it out, like let's chat it out. Like my door is always open to you. As long as I'm in there, come in, I'll stop whatever I'm doing, and we're gonna hash out whatever you need to hash out. Whether that's playing time, your parents are getting a divorce, you're in a bad relationship with a girlfriend, you're struggling in a class, whatever that is. I've heard and seen most of it, and that's why I'm in this game is to build relationships. It's not X's and O's are awesome, but football is just the medium I use to help people, and that's why I'm in it.
You've done all the different things, right? You've played at the different levels. You've been assisted the different levels, and you've been at a high school now for a little while, right? And now you're back here as the head coach. Can you tell me a little bit about that path? Where are you from? Where were you born? How did it start, and how'd you get here?
Yeah, so was born in Redding, California. Then my family moved down to the Central Valley of California when I was a little guy, and grew up in Modesto, California. Went to high school at Central Catholic High School there in Modesto, and it's a big time football program now. We were still at the small college or small high school level when I was there, but is a football school in every sense of the word. It's a private Catholic high school football team. You know what I mean? It's a parochial school there in Modesto. Won a lot of football games there. Learned from an unbelievable coach. How to create relationships with a football team and how to hold a football team accountable. That's where I get the culture of we. I mentioned that earlier. Like he and he still reaches out to me today. Coach Glines does, and was super psyched when I got this job. So played my high school ball and graduated from Central Catholic High School, and then went on to Modesto Junior College. Didn't know anything about the recruiting world as a high school athlete. Neither of my parents were athletes. So we were pretty green to the whole situation, and decided to go to MJC. Played 2 years there, and funny story, going into my sophomore year, I got sick, man. I was hovering. I was a defensive tackle, so I was a 290-pound kid. And we start fall camp, and within the span of 2 weeks, I'd lose 30 pounds.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like it was scary, like
that's dangerous.
Super dangerous. Well, here's what's going on. Like I'm getting type 1 diabetes. Like I end up in the hospital, right, with a blood sugar of over 500, and this is right in the middle of my sophomore campaign. Like we play week 1 and I play okay, but I'm just feeling terrible. And we play week 2, and it's probably my best game of the year. I don't know how the heck I did it. But later that week, man, I was ill. I mean, sick as I could be. Wasn't able to hold anything down. Was going to the bathroom all the time. I had lost all that weight. And so I'm in the hospital the 3rd week of the season going, man, what is going on? Because at the time, I was getting a little attention from, the FCS level type schools, Idaho State, Sac State, some of those. And just got sick, man, got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is what it is. And I missed 1 week, man. I missed 1 week of my sophomore season due to that, and I jumped right back in.
Oh
and
my God, you're
and
a
it was
savage.
great. Well, I don't know if I'm a savage. There's something about football, man, that just drives me. It's why I'm where I'm at today. But yeah, I got to only miss one game, which was pretty awesome. And but I just wasn't the same after that as a player. You know, I was walking around at now 270 pounds as a defensive tackle and only being 5'11". I say I'm 6 foot, but I'm really 5'11". Yeah, some of the interest dropped off a little bit, and I ended up out of NJC signing to Tusculum College in Tennessee, a Division II. And thought I was chasing that scholarship and thought that was the best route for me. Like, I'm gonna go be on a full ride, la 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 la. Well, I didn't like being away from home.
It's a long ways.
It was a long ways. It was a culture shock. I spent maybe 4 or 5 days, and I was homesick. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I was not okay being that far away from home. Decided that it was best to come home. So I de-enrolled from Tusculum, came back, and then ended up being a preferred walk-on at Sac State. So the season of 2004, I was a redshirt walk-on at Sac State. It took only a spring and a fall season to figure out that I just wasn't good enough to play at Sac State. And so I started shopping around for regional schools that were a better fit for me, that I know I could still be close to home while at the same time get away. And Jeff Olson.
Oh, I remember. That was my head coach. Yeah.
Yep. Ole gave me a call and decided to come to Southern Oregon, and spent my junior and senior years of eligibility here at SOU. Was a super average player.
What year was that?
So that would have been the 05 and 06 seasons.
Okay.
Yep. And didn't have a lot of success as a team those 2 years. 2005 is when Ole decided to step away, and Coach McClure took over in that interim period. And then Dennis Francois, the AD at the time, hired Steve Helminiak, who was my coach my senior year. And we had a little bit more success. I think we won three games that year, maybe 2 or 3 games. Started getting some things turned around. I got to the point where I earned a starting position my senior year, and it wasn't because I was athletic, man. I just loved the grind of it, and after that senior season, I couldn't imagine life without football anymore. Like, it slapped me in the face. I'm like, I told my girlfriend, who's now my wife at the time, like, I can't step away. Like, it doesn't feel right. My football has done so much for me and taught me so many things. Like, I want to do the same for guys that, mentor guys that, like, coaches had mentored me. And so right after the season, man, I just jumped in as a student assistant with Coach H and the staff, and was the grunt. Like, had to do all the grunt work here, and whether that's the equipment room or, washing jerseys or painting the field, like, you name it, I did it on this campus. And from there, it just kind of, my career just took off. I went in full bore knowing that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a football coach. And, my first year I spent on the offensive side of the ball, which was awesome, coaching tight ends, just like learning the different perspective of things was super beneficial. And then that first year coaching met a huge mentor of mine, who's the defensive coordinator here and is now the special teams coordinator at Penn State, Stacy Collins. And he taught me how to do a lot of things that I carry over to today, man. He's like, when I was taking this job and I'm looking for coaches, he's the first guy I call. Like, it's just an awesome person. But coached a year at the tight end spot, and then moved back over the defense and coached the defensive line for a couple of years. And our football program got to a point, I think in 2010, where we didn't know if it was going to be a reality that SOU was going to have football anymore. And at that juncture, Matt decided to let go Coach H, and actually I got pink slipped. Like, I got given my 90 days, like, hey, we're going to give you 90 days. You hold it. You and Coach Stu, me and Stu, were given the keys at 26 years old to both of us to hold down the fort. While, one, if we get into the Frontier Conference and football is a reality at SOU, And if that happens, then number 2 is we got to go find a head coach. And that's, you're pretty much applying for your job with your work ethic right now. And so in the winter of 2009 and 2010, 2011, we got the awesome news that the Frontier Conference was going to let SOU in.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant football was going to stay around for us. And then we hired Craig Howard. And man, that was the biggest blessing that could have ever happened to Stu and I. And I don't want to say the rest is history, but I was coaching linebackers and special teams coordinator, and then was a defensive coordinator, and just kept learning and soaking in what Coach Howard provided to our football team. And the love and the honor and the respect and how to deal with people and how to drive a culture and how to be more than just a football coach for these kids, because they deserve more than that. Man, I learned so much from him, and I'm so blessed to have that opportunity. And then we get into 2012 and we make a run in the playoffs and get back into the playoffs in 14 and win it all, which was, I mean, Jesus, you want to talk about an experience.
Amazing, I bet. Yeah, I do want to hear more about that.
Yeah, and then 15 we go back and lose, and it was at that juncture in my life where, man, I lost some sight into things that should have been more important. One being a good father and a husband. I was terrible to my family. Like, I was so wrapped up in the last 2 years of getting to the championship and winning the championship and feeling that high that I didn't want to lose it. And what I did lose was the relationship with my family. And at the time, my son was 6 months old and my daughter was 3.5, and I was just not being a good husband and a good father. And so after 15, I decided, like, listen, I need to take a breath and step away. And my wife still works for St. Mary's. She got me a job as the assistant AD and PE teacher at St. Mary's School there in Medford, little 3A school. So I got to break in as a teacher there at St. Mary's, and then help that program to their first playoff appearance in quite some time. And then the job opened up at Crater, and I took that, was the defensive coordinator there for a few years, and then took over as a head coach. Was lucky enough to get to the 2019 state championship game and lost to Thurston by 4 points because I made a bad call on a 3rd and 6, which was the difference in the game.
Sounds like you remember that well.
I could tell you the call. And it's funny, some of the kids from that team, like, because I told them as soon as they came to the sideline, like, fellas, that one is on me. I jacked that one up terrible, and they still give me a hard time about it. They make sure they let me know. And then went through the COVID year at Crater, and then spent the last couple of years there, and just having a good time with the situation there. District 6 and the whole Central Point community was unbelievably awesome. And I
Nice.
always told administration there, like, I'm here for life except for one job. And if that job comes open, like, I'm applying for it. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it, but where I stand. It opened it up, and I fooled some people, and now I'm here. So I'm super excited, man. I rambled there a little bit. I apologize, but it's that's what's brought me to this place, man. And I have such an affinity for this university and this region. I couldn't help myself. I couldn't be lying on my deathbed and not give this a shot. And that's what I told my wife. Like, we were living a comfortable life, make no mistake about it. And jumping into this situation, she has to make some sacrifices. My family has to make some sacrifices. I have to make some sacrifices. But there's just something about this place. And if I didn't give this a shot, I would not. I could not be on my deathbed and be happy with myself. So, yeah.
There's a few things I want to touch on there.
Yeah.
First of all, you're no fool. We're lucky to have you. But just the whole story, is there a better place for a CEO/head coach to start than at the bottom, doing the grunt work, working your way up, winning no games as a player, a couple games, and then building a little bit, building the foundation, seeing that all the way through to a national championship, and then a little pride leads to the fall, and now you have your shot at redemption coming back to where you want to be. I mean, what a great story.
Man, perspective is everything, right? Having perspective gives you the knowledge to teach others, like, hey, listen, like, this place at one time wasn't all we have now. You know, Matt and Bobby have done such a good job with the facilities and everything. And just going back to the coaching point, I was going to go off on a tangent there, but like if you don't go through those hard times, like you're going to never know what it means, right? To kind of push through that and come out the other side and be able to help people push through those hard times and come out the other side. And I think that's what attracted Sayer to me, is knowing that like I was literally here at the bottom part, you know, the worst part of we were at the bottom level, right, of a football program. Like we won 2 games, we were about to drop football. Like I saw what that was like. And in the matter of 5 years, I saw the peak of what our football program was like. And so to have that perspective and be able to share that perspective with our student athletes, I think is what led me to getting the position. Knowing, you know, Matt knows that, you know, I'm not afraid to to drive a culture that right now is, you know, our guys are lacking confidence. And it's my job to give them confidence. And you do that by giving them perspective. Like we are so blessed at this place to have the facilities we do, to have the administration we do, to have the community support that we do. Now we just got to follow that up and back it up with some good play in between the white lines.
Yeah, and I think everyone's ready to jump on board community-wise too, which you already talked about. Are you, this is jumping off topic a little bit, are you still living out in Central Point?
No, we never lived in Central
Oh,
Point. So we've
oh.
my wife and I have always lived in Medford. We just bought a house last December, and we're across from Centennial there. So we've always been Medfordites, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, man, we're like, this is, you know, during my interview process, like a big piece for me, and what I was trying to tell people is like, this is my destination. Like I am not going anywhere unless they fire me.
Mhm.
Like I love where we live. I love the atmosphere that, you know, Raider Athletics has. You know, I love being a part of this program, and we want to bring our kids up in this valley.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're living in Medford, hanging out.
You keep checking, I know
No,
you're getting hit up all the time.
no,
If
it's
you need
okay.
to go,
No,
yell
it's
at me and
okay.
we'll get you out here
No, I
'cause
just got another Zoom interview here in about an hour. We're doing
in
good.
about an hour. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
we're
make
doing
sure we
good.
get you plenty of
Yeah,
time to get ready for
all
that.
good, man. It's part of the, like I said, it's part of the job, dude. Like, don't
Yeah.
I love doing this part of the job. I really do. Like just being able to sit down and shoot it a little bit and tell people a little bit more about me. Because, like, let's be real about it. It's been 7 years since I was walking around here,
Mhm.
and I'm relatively unknown to the people who are new on campus.
Mhm.
And so this is a great opportunity for me to kind of get it out there.
Yep, and you talked about rambling. Please ramble because that's where the good stuff comes from. What does the spring look like? The schedule, is there still a spring game? I know
Heck
things have
yeah.
changed a lot, right?
Heck
What's the
yeah.
spring look like?
So I'll just kind of give you the rundown of how I see things going over the next couple months. So right now, hiring a staff, recruiting, and building those relationships with our current roster. That's going to kind of continue into March. And March is when I'm going to kind of step in and have our first real quote unquote team meeting, where some laws are going to be laid down and some expectations are going to be laid down. And then we're going to hit March hard in the weight room and what me and Coach Desmond are calling mental toughness training.
Mm.
Like we're gonna find out the guys who want to be on the field in the fourth quarter down by 4 points.
Mhm.
So that's gonna be March, and then we hit the end of the term, and we'll come back in April. The first week of April will be a little bit more of that. Hey, mental toughness training. We'll hand out gear, and for the month of April, 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll be in spring football, with our spring game being May 5th, I think it is. And
May
then
5th
yep,
on the calendar.
which is a Friday night. And then the following day at Eagle Point Golf Course, we're going to bring back the Raider Red Zone Shootout.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to bring back the golf tournament and get alums back in the fold. And I think, you know, one thing with me is that I know a lot of the alums, not just from when I played and when I coached, but just that opportunity I had with Coach Howard connecting with alums from the mid 90s and the 80s and the 70s and even the 60s and 50s. Like I know a lot of these people. And so a benefit of that is going to be able to bring those guys back into the fold right away, and get them excited about what we're doing. So that's kind of our first, hey, here we go, fellas. Let's round everyone up. Let's go have a good time. have a couple beverages, shoot a bad round of golf, and talk about the direction of Raider football.
I know I'm only a few years older than you, eligibility wise at least. But when you guys really got it rolling last time, people were out of the woodwork, just excited about it and supporting and all that. So I think
you got to let people right. It takes us all to make the one. Like those alumni are every bit a part of our success as anyone. Like they've sat in that locker room, they've sat in those meeting rooms, they've played at Raider Stadium. Like they know what it takes, and people want to be involved with things, and giving them that outlet is important to me. Like I want to hear the voices of the alumni. I want them in the stands. I want reunions to be happening. I want them around our players. Like they know better than anyone what it takes to succeed here and graduate from here. So yeah, man, I think having alumni relations is one of the most important things I can do, especially as alumnus.
Yeah, we got you on the calendar there,
awesome.
So it's
beautiful.
Good. Yeah.
I'm curious, just being a first-time college head coach, I mean, obviously, you gotta get your first shot at it at some point. Like, nobody's holding anything back as far as the experience for you goes. But being a first-time head coach, like, what are some things that, might be a challenge for you that, you might not see coming, or something that is coming that is gonna be a challenge? Who are you gonna lean on for those kind of situations,
Yeah, we talked about, hiring a staff. I got to be able to lean on some dudes big time. I am as humble as it comes. Like I have no ego about any decision I make for our football team, and I'm always going to run it by the staff. And I don't know what I'm not ready for, right? Like that's just the way it is. And reality is going to slap me in the face a couple times, and I'm going to get humbled a couple times as a head football coach. And I'm well aware that experience is our best teacher. But being able to hire a staff that I can lean on is of the utmost importance. So when that moment happens, like I can go to some guys and be like, look, I was not ready for this. Like, how can we tackle it? And, with the hire coach Stu, like that's my dog. That's my dude. You know what I mean? Me and him played together. We coached together for 10 years. We've cried together. We've laughed together. And so to have that resource is huge. That hire, like I was walking around when I first took this job, like with a 10-pound, it felt like a 10-pound weight on my chest. Just I need Stu, man. He's gonna be my guy that I can lean on. And so when he committed to coming to SOU last week, I was sitting up in my my office at my house. And I think I let out a primal scream when he decided to come. And my kids come running upstairs like, are you okay? I'm just like, you guys have no idea the relief I just had right now. So just to have a guy like him, who I know is going to work his tail off in recruiting and getting our offense right and all those things, but to have that resource, like, hey man, I need to talk to you. Can we sit down, close the door, and hash some things out? Like, I know I will have no issues with him. And then it's another thing I'm looking for in hiring a staff is, can I call guys in and lean on them and develop those relationships like I talked about earlier.
So following up with that, I mean, you do have experience in this conference, which I think is huge. Can you talk about that and what kind of advantage it gives you, just knowing the Frontier Conference as a whole?
Yeah, and it's obviously changed a little bit over the last 6 or 7 years. It had its ebbs and flows with, Rocky making the playoffs. Eastern, made a run there in 18, I think. But, it's come full circle now. It's Carroll's back on top. And so those are the guys right now, man. They won the conference and got the automatic bid into the playoffs last year, or into the championship series last year. And it was the exact same way when Coach Howard took over. And he would always, he always said, we respect all opponents but fear none. And I'm not trying to circle one date on the calendar, but somehow in front of his office, it was, November 25th or whenever, not November, October 25th. That was the Carroll date.
You remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was a white sheet of paper, October 25th, or it might not have been October 25th, whatever the date was. And because he knew the conference ran through Helena. And lo and behold, conference is running through Helena again. That's not to say C of I and Rocky and those other schools aren't going to be a challenge, because they are. I firmly believe that the Frontier Conference is the best NAIA football conference in the country. And since we're out west, sometimes we get overlooked. because we beat each other up. You know what I mean? There's no undefeated team in the conference. That's because we're all good enough to go up and bite someone, depending on that weekend. Um, so yeah, we've got our challenges, man. Rocky is under good leadership there, and they recruit like crazy and get some really good athletes out of California, Washington, and Montana. Carroll's on top. C of I is diving into California and getting some really good athletes, and then Boise that's becoming a mecca of football up there. There's some real talent in the Boise area, and they go down into Reno and Nevada too. And then the addition of Arizona Christian. I mean, you want to talk about a school that's just plugged right in the middle of a huge football area. I mean, they're right there in Glendale, so they're going to present a different kind of challenge than some of the Montana teams face. They're going to, as I see it, be a little bit more athletic, a little bit more like we were in our heyday, where we were spreading the ball all over the yard and making people run us down. So it's come full circle, and Carroll's on top, but the conference is changing, and then you've got the addition of Simpson down in Reading with football. Are they going to get into the conference? So I feel like I have a good thumb on it, and with the addition of Stu, who's been at C of I the last 3 years, that helps. But I think it's evolving, right? And it's we're not having to play each other twice anymore because the conference has gotten to that size, which is thank God. So yeah, it's ever evolving, and I don't know if I do have my thumb right down on it just yet. I've watched the tape and I've seen last year, but every year brings new challenges, and we're going to be different now. I mean, I think what people are going to see is that what I want people to see is when they walk away from Raider Stadium, win, lose, or draw, is that there's a team out there that is giving just a tremendous amount of effort. We're executing, and that we're excited, we're enthused out there, and that people see that we're excited, and hopefully that bleeds out to the stands, because I think that's one thing Coach Howard did an unbelievable job of, is just making sure we were excited about what we got to do.
So Arizona Christian's joining next year.
Yeah, they're in the
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they're in the Frontier Conference officially.
Wow. They're really good in basketball. They're top 5. What's their ranking right now, basketball? Do you know?
Top 5, I think they're 4th.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they're good.
Just their recruiting base.
Yeah, right there in Phoenix.
Unreal. You can hop up to Las Vegas or over to Southern California. Like it's dangerous, man. Those guys are gonna be good.
Go steal some of their Vegas guys.
That's the plan.
Right?
That's the plan.
Yeah. So what are realistic, fair, good expectations going into the fall for you? What are you thinking going into the fall as far as success?
That's a hard question, man, because I really don't know our roster that well. Like, I've seen them on tape. I've seen them work out. But I have not put them through the fire yet. Like, I have not challenged them one iota. Once I get a chance to do that in March, because it's coming, fellas, you're going to get challenged. I promise you. Then we'll see where we can be, because we can be as athletic and as big and as strong as anyone we play. If we aren't mentally tough and able to deal with adversity, then all those other attributes don't matter. So I got to be able to challenge these cats, and we're aiming to do so the right way. I think one of the benefits, and honestly, one of the reasons why I took this job, is like our athletic training staff. And, with football, we're fortunate enough to have Coach Dez as our strength coach. Like, man, what a resource. Like, so we're going to challenge our guys in March, but we're not going to get them injured. And so me and him have already started that process of, hey, what's this mental toughness training look like? Right. Without exhausting our guys and injuring them going into spring football. So
right.
I think that to go back to your question, TJ, like, what are my expectations? My expectations is that we put out a product that people are proud of. And whether that's 4-5, 10-0, somewhere in between, like that's our goal for this year. And like I told our guys, like, I'm not looking to rebuild. We are going to be the best versions of ourselves. It's kind of a coachy answer.
That's a great answer.
But at the same token, like, I need to put our guys through some obstacles and some adversity and see if they can come out on the other side of it.
Got to put that pressure on them. Yep. So you mentioned kids. You have 10 and 7. What's that like?
Man, so being a dad has made me a better coach, and being a coach has made me a better dad. I love being a dad. I adore my children. They're challenging. My son won't sleep at night. He doesn't like to sleep. He's always on the go. But man, I couldn't imagine not being a father, I guess. And having that responsibility, I take more serious than anything else in my life. If you would have asked me that 7 years ago, it would have been being a coach is number one. That's not the case anymore. I think being a father is taught me responsibility. It's taught me patience, and I just love being there for them. I call them my gingers. I got a couple of redheads.
Oh, nice.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm the only dude in the or the only person in the family without the red hair. My wife's a redhead too. So my gingers are my everything, man. I love watching my little girl play volleyball. My little guy EJ is and I'm not that dad that's saying you're playing football, you're going to be a sports guy. I could care less if he was into, Fortnite, which he's into, or football, man. But that kid loves him some football.
Yeah, that's fun.
And so having the ability to bring them both around our football community and our athletic community, I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to give them some insight on some different socioeconomics and some different cultures that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten exposed to at a young age. So I think that's a pretty cool adventure we're on. So yeah, man, it's cool being a dad. I love it.
Yeah, nothing changed me more for the better than having these guys and being able to bring them back here and hopefully raise them here long term. And there's other kids in the department too. It's been a great atmosphere. Everyone treats them so well. Sayer, Bobby, all the coaches, Fawn, everyone through and through. And then we have such a great support staff too. Like you were talking with the athletic training and make sure you don't get guys injured in the spring and just across the board. That's a great situation to bring kids into.
Yeah, man. It's you can just kind of turn them loose in the facility, right? And let them go run amok and go bug the trainers for a little bit and hassle Bobby. And yeah, that's part of the reason why I came back is I knew I could do that. Like I knew I could have him around and, I wasn't going to be ostracized because I want my 7-year-old son to be a part of our football team. Like I want him giving our guys water during practices. Like I want him to be a ball boy. Like that's important to me. And I know we can do that here. So
yeah. No, that's great. Well, we've taken a lot of your time. We're almost at an hour. Do you have any other thoughts that you want to share with people around here? Do you have any hot takes you want to share with us? A lot of times we'll do a hot take. Anything you have for us?
No hot takes. I don't think. I'm just excited for this opportunity. I'm extremely humbled by it. I'm the most fortunate person. I have a wonderful wife who lets me coach football because that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just excited to put out a product, not just in between the white lines, but in our community and in our classrooms that people can be proud of. And I think people are just clamoring for the change with the wins and losses. But I think they'll see more than just the wins and losses change. I think they'll see kids who want to be out in our community, supporting our community the same way they support us. And once again, that's not just Ashland. I love Ashland. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful campus. I want our students to come out to games and support us, but that's the whole Rogue Valley. It's the quote unquote state of Jefferson, Northern California, over to the basin, like I said before. And I'm just excited to get in front of my guys here in a couple weeks and give them the direction that they're clamoring for. And I know some of them are going to listen to this and just know that there's a plan in place. And I'm not just willy-nilly in this thing. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next steps of Raider football, man.
We're excited to have you here at SOU. Thanks for joining us. I know there's a lot of positive energy coming. Before we leave, I got to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Northwest Pizza and Pasta. We had our senior night last Saturday for men's basketball and women's basketball. And then the parents kind of hosted a little party for the seniors at Northwest, and they were really hospitable. Morgan George is taking care of us.
Morgan's my guy, man.
He's the man.
Yep.
Yeah. So shout out to them. Thank you. And thanks for joining us, everyone. Head coach of the Southern Oregon University Raiders football team, Berk Brown. You're the man. Thank you. And
appreciate it, fellas.
Look forward to seeing you soon. We're out.